On this Saturday edition of Locked On Cavs, the Cavs did not get it done against the Golden State Warriors, who didn't have Curry and Clay and Draymond and other people. We'll talk about that loss on this episode.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
All right, the music on the way in is from our friends at Astro Radio. Chris Manning and Evan Dammarell here for the Saturday Locked On Cavs. Thanks again to Jake Stevens for producing this one. This is a YouTube-only 10-minute or so episode on the Cavs loss to the Warriors. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not already. You may be listening to this on Monday, but we're going to be doing these only up on Saturday on the YouTube page. You can subscribe to help us get up to 3,000 and be on Evan. Cavs lose to the Golden State Warriors in a game that they kind of did come back in, but were down by double digits for large chunks of this game. The final score is 120-114. Again, no Steph Curry for Golden State, no Klay Thompson, no Draymond Green. They start kind of the guys that don't play a ton, play guys who don't play a ton in this game. Some of the things said post game include JB Bickerstaff saying that the energy wasn't there, that they would kind of betrayed the game. You had Karis LeVert saying, "I don't think we answered the bell tonight." You have Darius Garland saying, "We didn't play our best. We didn't play our." Bickerstaff says, "We got what we deserved." I'm very Evan. I can't help but disagree with him. Like, it feels like the Cavs kind of got what they deserved in a lot of ways. Yes, the Warriors got really hot from three and all that stuff, but there's stuff that is under the Cavs' control, I think, that really contributed to this loss.
This is a very frustrating to JP Bickerstaff. You had that timeout in your back pocket against the Grizzlies the other day, and you had questioned the validity of the call on Jared Allen, and then you watched your team just super flat and just get crushed by the Warriors reserves. And like you said, guys that are on two-way contracts that are making serious contributions to this Warriors squad. For context, they as in Golden State were 14-23 from 3-point range, and a lot of it at first was Cleveland just kind of giving those open looks up. I think that's somewhat what they play with the drop coverage scheme at times, but the issue is with that just plan and game plan, by perhaps in general, is Golden State's offense is predicated on relying on the system. Steve Kerr, and I use basketball socialism here, is an advocate of relying on the system, and that system gets a lot of his players very, very clean looks from the perimeter. And I think if you're Cleveland, it was over before it even soon started. Like, they were outscored 33-28, and then they kind of even things up. And then Golden State just kind of their foot's on the throat of Cleveland in the second half. And sure, Darius Garland made it interesting. Sure, Evan Mobley had some exciting plays down the stretch and kind of woke up a little bit. But like, the Cavs were just flat wire to wire. And you wonder if maybe there is the inverse of an emotional hangover from like that Donovan Mitchell 71-pointer, where it's an emotional hangover because you have a super frustrating loss in Memphis the other night. They just didn't come to play. And I agree with you. I agree with JB. Like, the Cavs got what they deserved. They didn't respect Golden State from the perimeter and the fact that they're a 3-point oriented team. And also, if you're the Cavs, it's just, you don't really have the personnel at the end of the day to pace with Golden State when they're hitting 3-pointers like that, because Kevin Love's shots, I mean, sure, he was 3 of 4 from the 3-point line tonight, but like, it wasn't falling. Darius Garland was 3 of 11. You're missing 10 attempts flat from without Donovan Mitchell out there. Like, Karis LeVert being your leading 3-point scorer isn't going to be happening on a night-to-night basis for Cleveland, and they just couldn't keep pace with the Warriors through this game. And like you said, they made it a little close in the fourth quarter, but it felt like just a case of too little too late when the Cavs kind of woke up a little bit in the last 5-ish minutes or so in the fourth, and it's just a bad game. And now, like you said, this is going to be a 10-minute vignette. I'm morbidly curious to see what the mood is heading into the game against Milwaukee on Saturday, and just kind of how Cleveland responds after getting embarrassed on their home floor like this.
I think kind of, for me, the thing that stands out is some of the, I think this was a pretty sloppy performance. I think you had, there's a lot in this, there's a lot of plays you could pick that really exemplify, I think, where this goes wrong. I mean, you had in the fourth quarter or late third, I can't remember which, Karis LeVert is getting into the lane and he has a pretty open floater, and he goes for the lob for Jared Allen at the dunker spot, and the ball goes out of bounds and it's a turnover. You have Darius Garland, when it's like a 4-point game, dribbles off his foot and commits a turnover, and like there's not really a push to get back with 4 after that. Like, yes, you can look at the 3-point shooting for the Warriors and be like, oh, this is crazy, and yes, teams have gotten hot from the Cavs or whatever. Warriors shot 53.5% from the field. The Cavs like had a good shooting night of their own, 42.4% from 3. But like had, there's a math problem in the number of threes Golden State makes versus the number Cleveland makes. And that's maybe a discussion we should have this week about the Cavs' like ability to get into kind of compete in games like this at times if they have to deal with this. But I think there was just some real sloppiness. Like Garland has 13 and 10, but like had kind of in 4 turnovers, but like some of those turnovers were really costly moments and they were kind of forcing things. Evan Mobley, I thought had at times a very sloppy defensive game. Like he got beat on some switches and beat on some splits from Golden State that really like just saw him like leave the paint. Jared Allen, who has been very good at switching this year, I thought really struggled early in this game to like step out and defend the 5-out stuff with JaMychal Green at center. And like really they had issues with kind of every little bit of this. This was not like the Cavs that I think we're used to seeing oftentimes, right? Like this was not a polished team. This was not an effortful team. This was like a team that kind of like, I think seemingly expected to beat a Golden State team that was out without most of its really, really high end players and kind of paid the price for it. And we're just entirely sloppy. I guess Ty Jerome hits some like nut shots that if he makes those, like good on him, like you're maybe just going to take the L in this one. But there's things about this game that felt controllable that they didn't control.
No, I think that's a spot on way to put it. Like it was very much within Cleveland's to win this game. They certainly could have set this tone early and kind of just imposed their will on let's just be frank, the part of the Santa Cruz Warriors and the reserves for Golden State, and without James Wiseman, not John Andre Iguodala out there either. So like they're missing 2 key reserves in that as well. So I jokingly told my fiance going into this game as I left the house today that like it'd be stunning to see the Cavs lose this one, just because like it just feels like a very easy game for them at the end of the day. And I feel like just the around it, like heading in, is like, yeah, the Cavs should have this one in the bag, but they didn't. And I don't think it's too concerning if you look at it in the macro sense, just because it's such a long season and there's so much can change between now and March or April when the playoff hunt starts to begin. But it's very clear like the Cavs do need Donovan Mitchell on nights like these. Like they need a guy who will just consistently get them offensive looks and buckets and things like that. And just I think the fans that are kind of like riding and dying with every single game, like this is not going to be a very fun exercise for you at the end of the day, because it just sounds emotionally exhausting to put all your stake and free will into the game. And it's tough. I think would you say this is the ugliest loss of the season for Cleveland?
That was going to be my kind of final question of this, because I do think this is the worst, ugliest loss of the season. Like, you have, I think the Kings load Ross was tough. I think the Kings like kind of game where like the media session afterward very short and they were very curt, and that was bad. But I think just considering there's no Steph, there's no Draymond, all of that stuff, I think to me this is by far the ugliest loss of the year. And on that note, it's like he didn't play tonight because they're playing it back to back and everything. But like I even felt like, Evan, if like Ricky Rubio plays in this game, the stabilization and calmness they were screaming out for someone other than Darius Garland to kind of control the pace, to be calm and kind of composed with the ball in their hands. Like that would like Mitchell, yes, would be like the best answer for that. But even if Rubio had played in this game, it's like you get one of those guys, and I think they almost like maybe things are a little bit different.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, there's only so much Ricky Rubio that's still not 100% can give you at this point, but I think just his presence would have an impact.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Like, think about what we've seen from him already since he's been back, and like just that little like feel he seems to give them would just be, I think, would have been really, 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 really needed, because this game was like out of control from the get-go, and like they needed something to just like settle them down and kind of get them kind of actually like trying, and it just never happened.
Yeah, I see. We're on the same page with that. For me, I think it's a little bit of, I needed Darius Garland to be a little more selfish in this game. Like Garland all throughout the night when he was on the floor, and he only sat for 8 minutes in this one, like was consistently looking to get his teammates involved on every possession. And like he would sometimes bail them out with like 9-on-1 triples, as John Michael would put it. But I needed to see Darius Garland maybe step up and say, like, you know what, my teammates don't have it. I have to put them on my back tonight and get them in it. And you saw it again, too little too late. Like you saw it in the last few minutes where like Garland just started taking over on offense and just kind of like dominating the possessions and things like that. And I just think I need more of that, maybe a little bit less of like Karis LeVert isolations or Karis LeVert throwing an inadvertent lob pass to Jared Allen in a tight situation in the quarter. Like there's just a lot of questionable decisions at the end of the day. I know folks are somehow calling for JB Bickerstaff's job, and I think you're getting too caught up in just like maybe this Memphis loss and the last loss, but there's a lot of small frustrations with this Cavs team, and they're still not perfect today. They still have their flaws and concerns. And to Chris's point, like you need a guy other than Donovan Mitchell maybe to emerge just as a consistent option, either calm the Cavs in these situations or maybe shoulder some of that load offensively to help balance out Darius Garland a little bit. I don't know. It's just, I have quiet criticisms, but it's an ugly loss. You have to just shift your focus and now look at Saturday's game against Milwaukee instead. Today's episode of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by PrizePicks. To play, pick 2 to 5 players, and if they go score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport you watch. That includes NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Eurobasket, cricket, and so much more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. And they offer safe and fast withdrawals. They're currently operational in over 30 states in the great nation of Canada. And if you're interested, go download the PrizePicks apps or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First time can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will match that with $50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100 reduce. PrizePicks. Check them out today.
All right, Evan, Cavs Bucks was an interesting one just because the Cavs really needed it. The Cavs kind of needed this win coming off of the Bucks game, and they got it done. And it was a Evan Mobley star performance, really. A new career high from 38 points on 14 of 27 shooting, I believe. 0 free throws, 0 made threes. Only took 1 free throw and missed that 1 free throw. That one with 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and pretty good defense while it doesn't register any steals or block shots in this game. But this was Evan Mobley. I know, no Donovan Mitchell as he continues to be out with the groin injury. No Giannis Antetokounmpo on the Bucks side. But this was the star player in this game was not Darius Garland or Jared Allen or Drew Holiday. Although a lot of those guys played well. This was an Evan Mobley star game.
Yeah, I think this is the Evan Mobley game. Like you said, Darius Garland did play well. He had 21 and 10. Jared Allen had a fairly quiet night, I guess if you want to call it that, with 12 and 6, and he only played 27 minutes in this one. But the only reason Allen hardly played down the stretch is because Evan Mobley was absolutely king. 19 and 27 from the floor, as Chris noted, 38 points, which is a career high, and he was just sensational. And like JB Bickerstaff said post-game, this isn't typically what you're going to get from Evan Mobley, but this is kind of the offensive, not explosion per se, but maybe this the confidence and the fact that he was asking for the ball a lot and he was just being aggressive for all 4 quarters instead of maybe just showing up quarter. Like this is the encouraging signs of growth you want to see from Mobley at the end of the day, because let's be frank, we as in Chris and myself and other folks who cover this team and then just fans of this team in general kind of expected a bit of a leap offensively for Evan Mobley. Like defensively, he's leaps and bounds just amazing once again, but it just the fact that Mobley was able to just be outright dominant, and he kind of deflected a lot of the praise after the game, just saying like, listen, the Bucks are giving him easy looks, and then they just kept giving him easy open opportunities. And this is just a very, very good game all around. Like the only blemish you could really say is the fact that he's 0-3 and 0-1 from the free throw line. But other than that, he was just really, really solid all around just at the end of the day. And it was just a really good performance from Evan Mobley at the end of the day. Like that's all I can really say. Like this was the Evan Mobley game for the Cavs. And if you're Evan Mobley or just the Cavs in general, like this is a game where you maybe just put a pin in it to say like, listen, there are going to be moments when offensively, it just isn't there for you, but you are capable of having moments where you're just flat out dominant on either end of the floor. And this game against Milwaukee is a perfect example of it.
Yeah, I think Mobley, like they talked about this a bunch, was like he's being aggressive and they want him to be aggressive. They want him to be this guy who gets his stuff. And like, I think there is something, the idea that like there's a lot of stuff with him where it's, it's not, Allen's not on the floor for some of this. And like, maybe that does make it easier for him to get looks in the pocket. And maybe there is something to the fact that, hey, when it's him and Rubio and someone else, and that's the opportunity to take pressure off of when if it's like, let's say it's Garland and Rubio and Mobley and Allen's off the floor and Mitchell's off the floor. Maybe like there's a moment there where it's okay, like it's easier for us to just feed him in the pocket, you run him pick and roll, give him opportunities to not have to like, get his opportunities on post-ups versus switches. Like that's maybe an opportunity to feed him in those situations and to lean into that aggression they want from him. And there's something to that, I think, to me. This, as we've noted, like was a career high, and like they kind of just they needed that. This was a win, Evan, that I think, like aside from the Mobley thing, it's like I think coming off of that Warriors loss and how ugly that was, they needed that. Like, Bickerstaff talked about this post game. It was like, look, like, yes, this was a Milwaukee team that we're tied season series and everything and all of that. But it's like we needed to just kind of right the ship from the night before, which is a game we were not happy with. That it was very evident no one was happy with. Everyone kind of hit on that comment in the post game media availabilities. Mobley's at the center of that. And this Evan, I don't think this is hyperbole. Like, I think this in a lot of like might be the best offensive game he's ever played. Maybe there's definitely, I think, a better passing game and some of that stuff. But I think in terms of scoring, efficiency, decisiveness, even without the free throw stuff, like I think this has to be the best offensive game he's played in his still very young NBA career.
Yeah, at least at the NBA level, this is the best offensive game he's played. The best all-around game is maybe when he flirted with triple-double a couple months ago, too, where you just saw like a little bit of the complete form of Evan Mobley in terms of passing, defense, rebounding, scoring, like a little bit of everything. But the Cavs kind of needed a second option to emerge tonight against Milwaukee. This was a back-and-forth game for the better part, and like the Cavs turned it up in third quarter a little bit, but that's when you just started noticing like Evan Mobley had a momentum at halftime, and he just capitalized upon that momentum, and maybe just how the Bucks were defending him in general, because he made the smart observation like the Bucks play a lot of drop coverage at the end of the day, and they're just giving him a lot of easy opportunities to look, whether it was pull-up jumpers or just him kind of getting easier looks in the paint as well, just because like the Bucks were sagging off period. And I think a lot of the second chance opportunities he was getting as well was super helpful for him too. Like there were a couple of moments where like maybe I believe it was either Lamar Stevens or even Jared Allen or Isaac Okoro as well, like would have a miss, and Mobley's just waiting there in the paint, watching the ball go up. He grabs it, then puts it right back. Like that's exactly what you want from him. And I think he just killed the Bucks quietly. Like I know you hate comparisons, but it reminded me of Tim Duncan at times, where just like he was systematically just like killing the Bucks on offense, and then on defense was just giving them just as much fits. And that's kind of what you need from Mobley, where he has that potential to be elite on either end of the floor. And to your point, and to Bickerstaff's point, to many others' points, like you're not going to see 38-point nights from Evan Mobley. Like Darius Garland said, like taking 27 shots is exactly what he wants on a nightly basis, him as an Evan Mobley. And just the reality of the situation is, and Bickerstaff alluded to this a little bit, like 100 times out of 100, if Evan Mobley sees like an open teammate on the perimeter when he or just in the 2-point spot, like he's going to get to the open teammate. Or if he sees a more opportune shot opportunity that could create for somebody else, he would rather do that than be dominant. And it's also just the nature and the reality of the situation of this Cavs team too. Like Bickerstaff also said, like he didn't come in, like they weren't expected to be good, the Cavs last season, but Mobley came into a situation where also he didn't get the opportunity to put up 15, 20, 30 shots a night like Jalen Green or Cunningham to an extent too. So the counting numbers maybe aren't there, and maybe we're not going to see these 38 night performances, but like this be like the apex of what he is. And it's hard to dissect how Evan Mobley would dissect the game because he's so soft spoken and just says, yeah, I guess, for his answers in just very different ways. But more or less said, like, this is the kind of night for him where like this is like the best night for him just in terms of scoring. But I think if you would ask if you like inject truth serum, he would probably say like I would have been much happier if maybe I played a little bit of defense, maybe a 3-pointer, or if I got my teammates more involved too. Because again, he's kind of unselfish too at times.
Yeah, he can be. And again, this is a situation where you got Donovan Mitchell and you have this other lob threat. It is worth noting that he did do this against Brook Lopez, who is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Very impressive stuff from Mobley. The other thing from this game, aside from the win, aside from Mobley, is that Dean Wade did return 10 minutes, didn't take a single shot in his return, 1 rebound, 2 fouls, 1 block shot. JB Bickerstaff joked when asked about it post game that he got some good cardio in, and that it's the bigger thing is that Dean Wade is back. That Dean Wade is we'll see how this affects the rotation. That is something to monitor as Donovan Mitchell comes back, and what 9-10 players JB Bickerstaff seems to settle on with everyone healthy. But Dean Wade missed 7 weeks. Again, just I think for him, good to be back. We'll see how he looks as he gets more games under his belt. Anything to add, Evan?
Oh, I thought we were done there. I thought we were wrapping up the segment. Yeah, I asked Bickerstaff just what he thought of Wade in his 10 minutes, and he joked yeah, he got a lot of cardio out there, but it's hard at the end of the day too for Wade. He's been all 4 for 7 weeks, and he's been doing a lot of one-on-one or one-on-none with assistant coaches, and his just rehab and recovery to get back to the floor. So it's not going to be a seamless transition for him to get back out there, but to your point, the Cavs played at least 10 players that at least logged 10 minutes tonight against Milwaukee. The reality of the situation is that's not going to happen when Donovan Mitchell's back out there. So I am curious to see how this rotation rolls out. Let's just assume Isaac Okoro is the starter. It's Garland, Mitchell, Okoro, Mobley, Allen, 5, and then it's probably Rubio, Love, Wade, and Burt for the time being. And I would assume just Jetty Osman is that ban or possibly just phased out of the rotation entirely just because there's only so many minutes to go around.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we're going to come right back, and we are going to get into a possible trade target who's not really linked to the Cavs, but hey, it's trade season. Let's talk about Cam Reddish right after this. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Yes, FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here. At LOCKEDON, we're really excited about our new sports betting partner for LOCKEDON because they're the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers join today and get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a single same-game parlay. They have tons of great stuff for the NFL playoffs right now. They have, over the weekend, they had all these amazing same-game parlays for, the Bengals-Bills game. They had one from The Ringer that was all about the Eagles-Giants game. And they have NBA stuff, too, if you're interested in that. They have Cavs ones. They have NBA futures, all of that great stuff. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Again, use the promo code LOCKEDON. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets. All right, back here, Locked On Cavs podcast. Chris Manning and Evan Dammarell. Evan, Cam Reddish. Mark Stein, the great NBA insider, check him out on Substack, has reported that Cam Reddish is available for a second-round pick from the New York Knicks. The Knicks are looking to move on from him. He's not playing a ton. He's had some injury stuff. Obviously was with Atlanta before New York. The teams that are kind of interested in him are the Lakers. He has the Heat as being interested as well now. And currently there's the Bucks, the Mavericks are in there, and Reddish. Well, the Cavs are not in there.
Mm-hmm.
But Evan, if I said, okay, let's just talk through Cam Reddish. If you're in the Cavs front office and you're saying, hey, what do you think of Cam Reddish? What do you think of us maybe going that route as far as wing help at ahead of the trade deadline? What would you make of Reddish? What would you make of trying to make that move?
So in the terms of optics of making a move, according to Mark Stein, the Knicks are expecting a second round pick or two to just offload Reddish. And in the player aspect, or maybe the mental aspect, you believe in your system, you believe in X, Y, and Z, and then maybe Cam Reddish, who I believe is in a contract here at this point, can be the guy for you. Sure, why not? It's a low risk, possible high reward trade. But here's my take on Reddish, and I give full blame to my friend Demetrius for putting this bug in the back of my head. But Cam Reddish is a dude who dominated in high school and coasted off his high school athleticism, but never really put in the work to make the game better. And I think that's why you're not seeing him play with the Knicks. And sure, Tom Thibodeau likes to lean on veterans a lot more and guys that he trusts, but also Reddish has done nothing to earn that trust from Thibodeau at the end of the day. And I think that's a bit of a red flag, especially because the Knicks are kind of a team that is waiting for some type of star power to emerge alongside the resurgence of Julius Randle. But it's a bit of a red flag for me of how things ended in Atlanta. Like, I understand he wanted to start, but like he just kind of made it stink. And then like he goes to New York, you're thinking, oh yeah, he'll play. But there's something clearly here that I'm missing. And just breaking down his footage, it's pretty clear. Like, he doesn't have a lot of moves that a lot of NBA players should have at his age. You didn't see him develop much at Duke because he got to play alongside Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett, who shouldered quite a bit of the offensive load. And like, he was the third fiddle there in that situation. And like, yeah, there's potential there. Like, you could see a playmaking wing who's very good at defense and has some suspect shooting ability at the end of the day. But I just don't think if you're Cleveland, the juice is worth the squeeze at this point. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Maybe it's good agent work on Reddish's agent's part to get like interest from the Heat, the Lakers, the Bucks, whatever. But like a team like the Bucks, that makes a lot of sense to me if you're able to buy low, because maybe you can develop him into a possible wing replacement for Chris Middleton if like Chris Middleton moves on, whether it's through agency and being priced out by Milwaukee, or Milwaukee just moves on because Middleton's just been so oft injured this year, and we'll see what happens. But it's just, if I'm Cleveland, I worry with how delicate a locker room can be and maybe what you have to give up to get a guy like Reddish at the end of the day. Like, maybe he acclimates nicely, maybe he fits in nicely, but like that could disrupt the balance and the flow of this team chemistry wise. And like that just may not be worth it either. But when I watch Cam Reddish's game, it's just largely unpleasant to watch for me. And like, I understand the appeal and maybe the upside there, but there's only so much NBA organizations can do before they realize like this kid just isn't committed to improving himself as a player. He's more than happy with taking off athleticism and maybe some of the like raw talent he had with high school and early college. But we're just not seeing a year 4 leap at this point, or like even a year 3 leap. Like he plateaued his rookie season and just has stagnant since then. It's not encouraging for you to like say like, let's take a stab at him. And I understand why Cavs fans are fascinated with him, especially when like that's like the optics aspect I'm talking about, like buying low on a player. But I would look elsewhere if I'm Cleveland. You already have enough kids in the room. You don't want somebody who rocks the boat. And to quote my co-host, you can never have too many adults in the room. And maybe you look elsewhere to maybe bring in some veterans that can help support you as you make this towards the playoff.
Yeah, like I don't know if I would. I don't feel like comfortable like knowing the situation in him fully enough to kind of go where you went with that. But what I think is
I watched a lot of Cam Reddish foot, brother, because when he was linked to the Cavs, I'm just like, okay, let's see what the appeal is, and I didn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, like I have watched him with the Knicks as well. I have talked to like people that have covered, like Brad Rowland specifically, who covered him in Atlanta, and like talked to him about him and tried to figure him out. And like you look at his basketball reference page, like he's played 20 games with the Knicks this year. It's 20 minutes a game, 30% from 3. Like the numbers overall are kind of uninspiring. And like I think like there is some value in like, okay, this is one of those things where I'd be curious to go back and see like, okay, what was the Cavs like scouting report on him when he came out in 2018 or 2019, excuse me, when he comes out in that draft, in the 2019 NBA draft, the 10th overall pick. So this is like after the Cavs have picked. This is the year obviously they get Darius Garland at 5. But like I'm sure there is a scouting report in that front office. So you go back and you look at it and say, okay, what did we think? How is that track versus our priors coming in, and him you evaluate it that way. And like I think like reclamation projects are not the bad thing. What gives the two things that give me pause is, number one, he would be heading into a situation where he's going to be due a contract, and like if you're him, I don't know if you're the Cavs, like how you like in a half season like really properly evaluate like that kind of thing in a very short amount of time. I think that is like a really tricky thing to do, and like that is complicated. Secondly, like I don't think if you're gonna make a move, and like it would have to be like Cedi Osman. It basically would have to be like the structure of this would be Cedi Osman and picks would be kind of the way you do it, and second round picks. Like there's no reason to believe that he is like a better NBA player than Jetty Osman right now. And if you're like not 100% sure that this is like an improvement, or like somewhere in the 90% sure that like the trade you're making is an improvement on what you already have, and it's when you don't have a ton of assets to deal with, I don't think I totally like would buy it. That kind of thing. I could totally see like a world where there's like a reclamation project for the Cavs at some point. Like, and I think that kind of stuff can make sense if you trust your player development, if you can find the right one. This is not one to me. And I think if you look at the teams that have been rumored to be interested, well, he's a clutch client, so the Lakers are hilarious, and like that's where that goes. Miami is Miami. Like the Miami trusts itself to just like kind of get the most out of guys, and I could totally see them taking the swing on that. That makes sense to me. Dallas needs to take lots of swings to try to figure out some stuff, and like that makes sense to me. Milwaukee is like sneaky kind of old if you look at Chris Middleton's age and his free agency, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Drew Holiday's age. Like they need to take swings to try to figure some of that stuff out as well. And he's 23, and like you could talk yourself into it. I could see those other teams absolutely doing it. But if I'm the Cavs, this is not on my list. I would have a meeting about it. He would be like a name on my big trade board, and I would again, like I would love to know what the scouting report was coming into that draft for them and what they thought. But the NBA track record does not make me think like, yes, this is like a really smart kind of buy low like rehabilitation project that's clearly going to be an upgrade for us at a position of need.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I'm not like dogging Cam Reddish entirely, but like he's just like Chris said, like the numbers just aren't inspiring because he plateaued after that rookie season, maybe the sophomore season of Atlanta, rather, just where he kind of had more of a consistent 6-man role with the team at the end of the day. And it's kind of been stashed away in New York, and that's a team that is kind of looking for talent anywhere they can find it because they're trying to maybe get rid of those more bloated veteran contracts, and like that's a little bit of a concern for me too. And yeah, I'm curious too, like what is the scouting report? And it's just like maybe it's the issues too. Like coming out of college, like there were a lot of concerns about like him just not being fully committed to getting energy on the defensive side of the ball, and like I forget who said it, but like instead of him being Paul George or Jeff Green at the end of the day, and like. Yeah, it's just I don't know if Cavs have the time, energy, or resources to work on a reclamation project right now. Like if this was the Cavs towards the end of the LeBron era, sure, why not? Like you can eventually, if LeBron leaves, give like a ton of minutes to a guy like Reddish and figure out what you have there. And if you don't have anything, you move on. And I think like logistically, the only way for Cleveland to get a proper evaluation of what Reddish is, if you acquire him, is do you sign him to like a 1-year contract or like a 1 year with like a team option after that, or like maybe a player option as well if you trade him if he wants to move elsewhere? But I just don't know logistically how you could make that work. And again, I just think maybe you need to look elsewhere. And like there's other names we've talked about in the past, like Tim Hardaway Jr. or like Malik Beasley, or there's other names in the ether as well. Like there's going to be a name that pops up that makes sense for the Cavs, like Bogdanovich with the Pistons, or even Sadiq Bey. Like if I was going to take a stab at a young wing and I want to commit some serious assets to it, Sadiq Bey would be the guy I'd rather do it because he provides you more of an immediate need, and that's 3-point shooting and defense, whereas Reddish doesn't really give you much of either of those things, right?
Yeah, and he's like a 3.5, which is a thing they need. So if you're going to like if you're going to like take a swing on that kind of stuff, that makes a ton of sense to me to try to like take a swing on the 0.5 guy who may, for whatever reason, like maybe the Pistons don't totally want, which I find kind of weird, but like that's the swing I would take more than this one. And again, the Cavs have not been linked to him. This was just as names kind of trickle out in this weird trade market, we maybe just will do something like this where we talk about a guy, what we think of their fit, all that stuff, and evaluate it. But that is going to be it for this episode of Locked On Cavs. I'm Chris Manning. That's Evan Dammarell. Thanks again. Please go subscribe on YouTube. We're begging you to go on YouTube, help us subscribe, get up to 3,000 and above on YouTube. Find us on Twitter and all socials at Locked On Cavs. Thanks again to Jake Stevens for producing this one. Back tomorrow ahead of Cavs Knicks, which should be a doozy. Until then, I'm Chris. That's Evan. Peace out.